In 1943, a farmer's simple rope repair sparked a critical breakthrough for Allied engineers. Amid mud and rain, his ridiculous hack enabled construction of the war's longest bridge. This unassuming act of loyalty proved vital in crossing hostile rivers under fire, shaping a path toward victory. Winter 1945 gripped the eastern banks of the Oder River with a biting chill. Gray clouds pressed low, heavy with the threat of snow, while a harsh wind stung exposed skin. The river spread wide and swollen from recent rains, its waters dark and churning, moving swiftly toward the distant Baltic. On this side, the ground was frozen hard enough to crack under heavy boots, but the air carried a sharp dampness that hinted at deeper mud beneath. The Allies faced a daunting barrier. Every bridge that once spanned the river had been destroyed in retreat, twisted steel and shattered concrete now littering the banks. The current was fast and dangerous, pushing anything caught within it toward the far shore's Nazi defenses. From across the water came the sharp rattle of artillery fire, the thunder rolling over the river's surface in relentless waves. Flashes of tracer rounds cut the gloom, lighting the smoke-filled sky as soldiers huddled behind sparse cover. Among those tasked with breaching this natural and man-made obstacle was Janusz Kowalski. He was a Polish sapper, pressed into service far from his home fields and farmstead. His face was marked by cold and weariness, hands calloused from years of tending soil now gripping tools of war. Janusz was known for a quiet resourcefulness, able to make use of whatever materials were at hand to solve problems others called impossible. Today, his most prized possession was a battered length of rope, frayed at the edges but sturdy. It had been salvaged from old farm equipment before the war swept him into this campaign. The rope was more than just a tool. It stood as a symbol of hope amid destruction. If Janusz and his comrades could rig it across the Oder, it might allow men and equipment to cross where bridges no longer stood. Success would mean hundreds could survive the crossing, pushing the Allied advance deeper into enemy territory. Failure might stall the offensive, leaving soldiers stranded and exposed to relentless shelling. The fate of this moment rested on a fragile thread, stretched taut between flood and fire, between past and future. The first light of dawn seeped weakly through low-hanging clouds, casting a gray pall over the frozen riverbank. Along the muddy trenches, Allied soldiers crouched beneath threadbare blankets, their breaths rising in white puffs that mingled with the damp, heavy air. The earth underfoot was soft and churned, smelling sharply of wet mud, and the faint, acrid tang of cordite lingering from overnight bombardments. A cold wind skittered across the water's surface, its biting edge pressing against every exposed skin. In the shallow trench, sappers in worn leather boots and faded uniforms sifted carefully through scattered wooden crates. Their gloved hands moved methodically, extracting broken tools and twisted metal fragments. The morning was silent except for the low murmurs of men and the occasional clink of scrap against wood. One sapper lifted a mangled coil of steel cable, the rusted strands fraying like spider webs. Another held up a snapped pulley wheel, its edges jagged and useless. A British officer, his greatcoat dusted with mud and his face pinched with exhaustion, crouched beside them. He spat low and muttered curses under his breath, his voice rough from cold and disuse. "Not one cable left intact," he said, voice sharp. "Last night's shelling tore through every line we had." His gaze swept the ruined gear again, frustration tightening his jaw. The men exchanged glances, aware of the urgency but powerless against the damage. From the rear of the group, Janusz stepped forward. His small frame was wrapped in a threadbare wool sweater beneath a patched jacket, and a faded scarf was knotted tightly around his neck. His hands, red and rough from days of frostbite and labor, held a coil of rope, worn, frayed in places, but carefully mended with strips of canvas and thick knots. The soldiers turned their heads to watch. Some chuckled quietly, sharing a brief moment of humor amid the grim task. Others shook their heads slowly, doubt flickering in their tired eyes. The officer looked up sharply, eyes narrowing. Desperation edged his voice. "Try it then. What else have we got?" Janusz nodded once, his lips moving in a low murmur of Polish words, barely audible above the wind. He bent double, examining the rope's fibers as if searching for weakness. His fingers worked with practiced care, adjusting knots in the cold light. The rope felt coarse and heavy between his gloved hands, but it held its shape. The trench was quiet, save for the soft tightening of cord against wood. A slight shiver ran through the group, not from cold, but from the fragile hope pinned on this single coil. One sapper stepped forward, nodding to Janus. The officer gave a curt order. The sapper tied one end of the rope securely to a rusted ring embedded in the trench wall. His fingers trembled slightly as he worked, the chill seeping through his gloves. Then, without a word, he lowered himself over the edge into the icy river below. The water swallowed him with a dull splash, rippling outward in dark circles under low-hanging branches. Above, the men held their breath, eyes fixed on the shifting surface. Janus's gaze remained steady, watching the rope's tension, his jaw set against the cold and the danger. The officer stood rigid, the weight of the moment pressing down in silence. The only sound was the river's low murmur and the distant cries of early morning birds. For a long moment, nothing moved except the sapper's slow progress beneath the water, guided by the fragile line Janus had knotted with care. The men leaned closer, the cold biting into their bones, but their focus unbroken. In that silence, the rope was more than a tool. It was a lifeline, a thread of loyalty and resolve running through the frozen landscape. The dawn continued to pale, light creeping slowly across faces drawn tight with fatigue and hope. The river's chill hissed quietly, carrying with it the heavy weight of what lay ahead. The river's cold current pulled relentlessly at the sapper as he stepped into the water. His canvas boots slipped on the slick stones beneath, sending small splashes echoing in the dawn's quiet. Dark shapes of tangled roots and mud pressed against his legs, slowing his progress. Behind him, the rope trailed like a lifeline, disappearing into the shadows on the friendly bank. Bullets struck the surface around him with sharp splashes, the report stinging the ears of the men waiting in the low light. The sapper's shoulders tensed with each crack, water spraying as tracer fire hissed past. He fixed his gaze on the far bank, where the enemy lay hidden just beyond the tree line. Every step forward was a battle against the current and the hidden threat. On the German side, a sniper shifted cautiously among dense underbrush. His uniform blended into the mottled shadows, the barrel of his rifle steady as he tracked the sapper's slow crossing. He hesitated, breath held, before the sharp crack of his shot interrupted the stillness. The bullet struck the sapper's side. His body jerked, muscles tight against the pain. Yet he did not falter, eyes narrowed, mouth set in grim determination. The rope held firm in his grip, stretched taut between banks. It vibrated with the sapper's movements, trembling under the strain of the river's pull and the man's steady advance. Janus stood near the water's edge, his face drawn and pale. His jaw clenched tightly, hands gripping the rope as if it anchored more than just the man crossing. His eyes never left the sapper's form, tracking every motion with a mix of hope and dread. Behind Janus, the medic knelt beside a folded stretcher, tension etched into his posture. His gloved hands arranged bandages and antiseptics with quick, practiced movements. The medic's eyes flicked toward the river, scanning for any sign of the sapper faltering. His breath came in shallow bursts through the chill air, the promise of violence lingering just beyond the trees. The sapper's boots scraped rocks as he fought against the current's pull. Each step was deliberate, measured despite the sting in his side. His soaked uniform clung to his frame, heavy with water and mud. His hands gripped the rope tightly, knuckles pale beneath dirt and cuts. The river's steady rush filled the space between the two banks, punctuated by the distant cries of birds disturbed by the conflict. The sniper repositioned slightly, scanning for another chance, but the sapper's movement was too quick, too focused. The man seemed to steel himself against the pain, forcing his body onward with quiet resolve. The tension on the rope mirrored the tension in the air, taut, unyielding, a fragile thread holding this moment together. Janus's breath fogged in the cold morning. Beads of sweat formed despite the chill, evidence of the strain he bore. His fingers brushed the coarse fibers of the rope, grounding him to this dangerous crossing. The faces of the men behind him were grim, the weight of the mission pressing heavily on each one. No one spoke. The silence was thick with unspoken fear. Water lapped around the sapper's knees now, swirling dark and cold. His progress slowed, muscles burning from the effort and the wound. Yet he did not look back, did not waver. The rope pulsed in his grasp, a silent testament to the trust between the two banks. Janus's eyes flickered with an unspoken command. Hold fast, hold firm. The medic's eyes narrowed as he caught the faintest sign of blood staining the sapper's sleeve. He shifted the stretcher closer, ready to move at a moment's notice. The river's murmur was suddenly pierced by the distant crack of another rifle shot, but it fell short, striking only branches and leaves. The sniper had missed his chance. The sapper reached the final stretch, water rushing over his thighs now. His breath was ragged, chest heaving beneath the soaked fabric. A sudden slip sent him briefly off balance. His hand slipped on the rope, water rushing past his fingers. He caught himself, jaw clenched tight against the cold and pain. The rope held. Janus stepped forward, pulling the line taut, muscles straining to steady the sapper's crossing. His lips pressed into a thin line, eyes flicking toward the dark woods beyond. The tension between the two men was palpable, a shared understanding born from countless perilous moments. The sapper's boots hit solid ground on the far bank, mud sucking at his feet as he stumbled forward. His hand released the rope, dropping it with a soft splash into the shallows. His face was pale, sweat and river water mingling on his skin. He took a deep breath, eyes scanning for the next threat. Janus exhaled slowly, the tightness in his chest easing just a fraction. The rope slackened between them, but the memory of its strain lingered. The medic rose smoothly, stretcher in hand, eyes fixed on the sapper's form. The men behind Janus began to move forward, whispers breaking the silence as plans formed quietly. In the distance, the forest remained dark and watchful, the sniper gone but the danger still present. For a moment, the river's cold current was the only sound, carrying with it the weight of survival and the fragile promise of loyalty. The crossing was complete, but the mission had only just begun. The sapper's boots struck wet earth with a soft thud as he stumbled onto the far riverbank. Mud clung to his worn leather as his breath came in shallow gasps. The river's roar filled the air, a constant, relentless presence. Above, gray clouds spilled a sharp, biting wind across the water's surface, sending ripples toward the broken shore. He moved quickly, the leather gloves on his hands slick with dampness. His fingers found the jagged edges of a shattered tree stump, roots exposed and cracked by shellfire. Gritting his teeth against cold and fear, he wrapped the thick rope tightly, knotting it twice around the splintered wood. His hands trembled slightly. This single act held the fragile thread between life and death. Across the riverbank, his comrades shouted encouragement in rough, urgent voices. The commands overlapped, harsh and clipped. Hold steady, check those knots. Secure the lines, don't let go. We've got to get that bridge up. Each word carried over the wind, blending with the relentless rush of water below. Janus stood close by, his eyes sharp beneath a soaked wool cap. His hands, stained and weathered, gripped the rope firmly. The knots he had tied earlier, patched with strips of canvas and spare twine, held firm against the pull. No slack, no give. The engineers worked swiftly, muscles taut under muddy uniforms. They scrambled to rig pulleys and lines, fastening anchors to nearby trees and rocks. Their faces were drawn tight, with exhaustion but resolute. The first plank, rough-hewn and heavy, slid cautiously across the rope. Two trembling hands guided it, fingers white with cold and strain. The wood scraped softly against the rough bark, a scraping that cut through the constant roar of the river. It teetered for a moment before settling, a fragile step suspended over the roaring current. The makeshift bridge was beginning to take shape, not forged from steel girders or concrete slabs, but from rope, wood, and something far less tangible: hope. Each plank laid was a testament to careful hands and quiet determination. The river below surged with angry insistence. It sounded a low, thrumming growl that seemed to challenge the men to falter. But they did not. Sweat mixed with rain on their faces, and the wind bit through their threadbare jackets. Fingers numb and stiff, they pressed on. One engineer called out the next step. Another pulled taut on a pulley, adjusting its angle with precision born of practice and necessity. The riverbank on either side was littered with debris, twisted branches, shattered leaves, and the occasional glint of spent shell casings. Yet the men focused on the task, their discipline undeterred by chaos. Nearby, in a shallow foxhole dug into the muddy earth, a young private sat huddled against the cold. His uniform hung loose on his thin frame, sleeves rolled up to reveal pale, scratched arms. He clutched a small pencil, its tip worn down from pressure, and a folded sheet of paper. The dim light revealed the careful, looping script as he wrote, the scratch of graphite mixing softly with distant shouts and the river's relentless rush. He paused, glancing up at the scene before him. His comrades balanced on narrow planks over the water, the rope bridge inching forward with cautious determination. The private's lips moved silently as he penned the words. "The stupidest, bravest thing I've seen," he wrote, the line a quiet admission of disbelief and awe. Around him, the smell of damp earth and wet wool filled the cold seeped through the layers of clothing, settling deep in his bones. Yet he remained still, grounded by the act of writing, his letter a tether to a world far away. Back at the river's edge, the bridge grew longer. The men's faces, streaked with grime and sweat, reflected resolve. Each plank laid was a small victory, a bridge not only across water but across fear and uncertainty. The wind howled, scattering droplets of rain that caught the faint light. The sapper tightened the final knot with a practiced hand, eyes flicking to the other side of the river. His breath steamed in the cold air as he nodded once. The engineers responded with a series of sharp movements, and the last ropes were drawn taut. For a moment, silence hung between the sounds of the river and the wind. The bridge stood fragile but true. It was not a monument, not a grand construction, but a lifeline, woven from rope and wood, sweat and resolve. The private in the foxhole folded his letter carefully, his eyes lingering on the scene before him. Somewhere in the chaos and cold, he had found a story worth telling, of men who risked everything for loyalty, for the chance to cross and carry on. The river rushed on, unyielding. The bridge held. The first rumble of German artillery shattered the uneasy quiet along the riverbank. Earth shook beneath the men's feet, and thick plumes of soil and water erupted into the gray sky. Explosions erupted with relentless force, each blast sending a new shower of debris over the bridge and surrounding trees. The wooden planks beneath them quivered violently, loose boards rattling against the framework. Splinters flew as the barrage tore through the fragile crossing. Janos lay flat against the bridge's edge, his uniform soaked with grime and sweat. He gripped a coil of fresh rope tightly in one hand, his fingers raw and trembling. The acrid stench of cordite filled his nostrils as he crawled slowly forward, careful not to lose balance amid the trembling structure. His eyes scanned the battered wood, searching for the worst damage amid the chaos. Several planks lay shattered, hanging by narrow edges or missing entirely. With deliberate hands, Janos tied off the splintered ends, looping the rope to secure the broken beams. Each knot was tight, practiced, and precise, despite the nearby thunder of shells. His lips moved silently, mouthing a prayer he had learned as a boy, words meant for protection, though no one could hear over the relentless din. The wind carried the sharp report of explosions, punctuated by the distant crack of rifle fire. Nearby, a British lieutenant's voice cut through the noise, hoarse but resolute. "Hold the line, keep moving, don't let them break through." His command barely carried over the roar, but the men around him turned with quick glances, nodding grimly. The officer's uniform was streaked with mud and sweat, his face set in a mask of determination. His eyes flicked from the advancing smoke to the soldiers maintaining the bridge. The bridge groaned under the strain, each impact causing it to shudder like a living thing. The wooden beams creaked, some threatening to give way entirely. Men clung to the rails or crouched low, trying to avoid the worst of the fragments flying through the river below churned with disturbed silt, swollen and rushing faster under the turn. A wounded sapper was carried backward along the span, his body limp in the arms of two comrades. Blood seeped from a deep wound in his side, soaking into the mud-caked wood beneath him. His face was pale, eyes half closed, lips parted in a silent plea. The men moved with urgency, their footsteps uneven but steady despite the shaking ground. The sapper's breath came in shallow gasps, mingling with the river's cold mist. Fear was palpable now, a silent wave rippling through the ranks. Some soldiers glanced at one another with wide eyes, the weight of their vulnerability pressing down. Yet no one faltered. The bridge, battered and bleeding, remained intact. Each man understood what depended on their resolve, that this fragile crossing was the last barrier between retreat and disaster. Janus paused only briefly to wipe dirt and sweat from his brow before pressing forward again. His hands, though stiff from the cold and strain, found new sections of damage. Rope tied, knots secured, and splinters bound. The bridge's wooden bones held fast beneath his touch. The murmur of prayer continued on his lips, a private shield against the terror unfolding. Shells exploded closer now, sending showers of rain and mud onto the bridge. The men pressed into their work and each other, the sound of breathing heavy, bodies tense. The lieutenant circled, shouting orders, repositioning men where needed. Every gesture was sharp, necessary. In the distance, the enemy's artillery continued its relentless assault, yet the bridge stood firm. A sudden blast rocked the center of the span, and a large plank snapped free, splintering into the river below. Shouts rang out as soldiers scrambled to replace the broken section. Janus moved without hesitation, his fingers working the rope in a steady rhythm. The bridge creaked ominously but remained upright, a testament to their efforts and stubborn will. The river's dark water rushed beneath, carrying fragments of wood and earth downstream. The cold spray reached the soldiers' faces, mingling with the grime and sweat of battle. The sky overhead was heavy with smoke and rain clouds, dimming the light to a somber gray. The world seemed compressed to this narrow strip of wood, the men, and the relentless enemy fire. Despite the fear and fatigue, a sense of duty prevailed. Each soldier fought not only for survival but for loyalty, to their comrades, to the mission, and to the fragile hope that the crossing would hold. The sound of artillery faded slightly, replaced by the heavy breathing of the men and the creak of the bridge under strain. Janus crouched low, glanced toward the lieutenant. Their eyes met briefly, an unspoken acknowledgement of shared resolve. The lieutenant's jaw was set, his face streaked with dirt but his posture unwavering. Around them, the men steadied themselves, bracing for the next wave of fire. The bridge, scarred and battered, was a fragile lifeline. Yet it held. The river flowed beneath, indifferent and cold, as the men clung to their post, silent witnesses to the cost of their loyalty. Night descended quickly over the river, swallowing the last traces of twilight. The construction site on the banks became a patchwork of dim pools, lit only by flickering flashlights and pale moonlight. The men moved cautiously, their breaths visible in the cold air, mingling with the faint rustle of river currents beneath. Janus crouched low alongside two comrades, their hands numb but steady as they examined each knot on the newly laid ropes. Every twist and loop spoke of precision, bearing the weight of more than just timber. It carried the hopes of those waiting on the far side. The faint scrape of boots on gravel was muffled by the thick blanket of night. The men's eyes darted briefly toward the tree line opposite, where shadows shifted with unnatural stillness. German patrols prowled just beyond, their presence a quiet threat. The soldiers moved like ghosts, watching and waiting for the slightest sign of movement. Janus's pulse quickened, a steady rhythm beneath the cold sweat on his brow. Yet, despite the danger, the work persisted. The bridge inched forward, a fragile line of effort and resolve stretching over dark water. For a moment, the three men paused, settling on the damp earth near the bridge's edge. Janus reached for a small piece of bread, breaking it into halves with trembling fingers. His comrades received their shares silently, their eyes reflecting the dim glow of the flashlights. The flask passed between them carried a thin, bitter spirit, a warmth that chased away the chill creeping into their bones. Their hands shook, not just from cold, but from the tight coil of nerves wrapped around every muscle. No words passed, the silence was thick but understood. One man shifted, breaking the quiet with a low, hoarse voice. "The farmer's magic rope," he muttered, a faint smile flickering across his face. It was a nickname born from the tangled, seemingly endless coil of rope that bound the bridge together. The others chuckled softly, a brief respite from the tension. Yet their laughter was cautious, cut short by the eerie stillness around them and the knowledge that every moment brought them closer to discovery. Janus gazed down at the river's surface, barely visible beneath the moon's pale light. The water moved quietly, swallowing the faint reflection of stars and shad. He could imagine the current pulling at the ropes beneath, testing their strength as surely as the men above tested their own limits. A cold wind whispered through the trees, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and pine. The men's faces, half hidden by caps and scarves, were marked by fatigue and determination. They had come too far to turn back now. The bridge grew with painstaking care, each plank secured, each knot tied tighter than the last. The men worked in near silence, every movement deliberate. The only sounds were the subdued creak of wood and the soft splash of water lapping against the riverbank. Janus's eyes met those of his companions, a silent exchange passing between them, a bond forged in shared risk and unwavering loyalty. Beyond them, the enemy patrols shifted their positions, their silhouettes barely discernible against the dark forest. The soldiers held their post, faces impassive but alert. Somewhere in the distance, a sharp bark of a command or the faint click of a rifle bolt echoed briefly before fading into the night. The tension was a living thing, coiling tighter with every passing hour. Janus swallowed hard, his throat dry beneath the cold air. The task was far from over, but the bridge was no longer just a plan. It was becoming reality, a testament to the men who dared to build it under the watchful eyes of the enemy. Each foot of progress was a small victory, a quiet act of defiance in a world consumed by war. The night stretched endlessly, the men caught between exhaustion and resolve. Their shadows melded with the darkness, their breaths shallow and steady. For now, the river held its secrets, and the bridge held their hopes. The moment was fragile, balanced on the edge of silence and sound, light and shadow, fear and courage. Janus's gaze lingered on the far side of the river, where the faintest outline of trees marked the border between danger and safety. His fingers tightened around the rope, the rough fibers biting into his skin. In this night of cold and waiting, loyalty was the only true companion. The bridge, built knot by knot, was more than wood and rope. It was the bond that held them together, unseen but unbreakable. Night pressed close around the bridge, a heavy silence broken by the distant rustle of footsteps through dry brush. A German patrol moved deliberately, their shapes just shadows in the moonlight. The air smelled of earth and cold sweat, tense with the threat of violence. Suddenly, the sharp crack of gunfire shattered the stillness, echoing over the river's black surface. The sharp retort of bullets striking wood and rope mingled with shouted commands in harsh German. The rope supporting the bridge vibrated under the volley, a low hum running through its fibers. Beneath a worn, olive-green tarp, Janus lay motionless, every muscle tensed. His breath was shallow, mingling with the damp chill. His fingers clutched the coarse rope, feeling the subtle tremors of each bullet's impact and the frantic movements above. The rough fibers bit into his skin, grounding him in the moment. From the other side, an Allied guard's rifle barked in return, steady and unyielding. The staccato pattern of fire pushed the attackers back, their advance faltering amid the crackling bursts. The guard's uniform was barely visible in the fading light, his silhouette rigid and defensive. The night air filled with the smell of gunpowder, mingling with the scent of wet wood and sweat. The patrol's voices grew frantic, orders shouted in German, desperate and sharp. The rope creaked ominously, the strain visible in its sagging curve. A section of the bridge bent downward, threatening to collapse under the weight of tension and damage. Janos felt the rope pulse under his hands, a dangerous rhythm that spoke of imminent failure. Around him, the engineers exchanged hurried glances, their faces drawn tightly in the dim light. The night offered no mercy, every second counted. Silently, they crawled from beneath the tarp, their movements cautious but urgent. Each hand found a new hold on the worn wood and frayed ropes, fingers scraped and bleeding against the rough surface. The cold metal of their tools pressed into their palms as they prepared to act. The river murmured far below, indifferent to the life-and-death struggle unfolding above its dark current. The sound of the patrol's retreat faded slowly, replaced by the labored breathing of the defenders. The bridge groaned under the strain, wooden boards trembling as the engineers worked. They set to splicing the new rope with practiced efficiency, the coarse strands sliding against one another as knots were tied and pulled tight. Their hands moved with a quiet determination, despite the pain and exhaustion. The sting of blood mixed with the dust and grime of the makeshift battlefield. Janos knelt beside them, steadying the new section with careful fingers. The tension in the rope shifted as they wove the repair, a fragile but vital lifeline restored in the dark. The bridge sagged less, the weight beginning to balance once more. Above, the night sky remained indifferent, stars hidden behind a veil of clouds. The faint whistle of wind carried the distant sounds of resumed patrols, cautious and watchful. The engineers worked onward, sweat mingling with dirt on their brows. Minutes passed like hours, each not a small triumph, each splice a silent vow to hold the line. The bridge, battered and bruised, held its place against the river and the enemy alike. As the last knot was secured, Janos allowed himself a brief glance over the edge. The water flowed dark and relentless, a reminder of the precariousness of their stand. The bridge was more than wood and rope. It was loyalty woven into every fiber, a testament to the men who refused to yield. The patrol was gone, the immediate danger past, but the tension lingered like a shadow. Janos's hands bled from the work, his heart still racing beneath his uniform. Around him, the engineers shared silent nods, fatigue etched deeply into their faces. The bridge survived the night, fragile but unbroken, held together by hands unwilling to surrender. In the quiet aftermath, the weight of what they had done settled like a heavy cloak. The legacy of this moment, born in darkness and steel, would endure beyond the firing and fear. Before first light, the bridge lay stretched nearly from bank to bank, a lattice of wooden planks and cables slick with morning dew. Faint fog hovered low over the river's surface, swallowing the muddy current beneath a ghostly veil. The air was cold, sharp smelling of wet earth and the distant pine forest. A group of officers arrived, their polished boots disturbing the soft ground, uniforms creased but faces drawn tight with concern. Two commanders stepped forward, their voices low but tense as they debated the fragile structure's strength. One spoke in clipped German-accented English, questioning if the bridge could bear the weight of armored vehicles. Janos stood nearby, his hands stained and raw from hours of knotting rope and driving nails, eyes flicking between the commanders. He spoke halting English, voice steady but modest, explaining the bracing techniques he had employed. His fingers traced the tight loops and clasps that bound the beams together. The knots, he said, strong, tested in forest. They hold. No break. His accent was thick, his words deliberate but carried a quiet confidence born of long experience. He demonstrated by tugging on a thick rope, its fibers resisting, coiling firmly around a wooden beam. The skeptical colonel, tall and stern, folded his arms. His gaze measured the bridge's trembling surface, the slight give beneath the tensioned ropes. Without a word, he ordered a jeep to approach, his voice curt and final. A mechanic wheeled the vehicle forward with care, the engine's low growl breaking the dawn's stillness. Soldiers lined the banks, rifle butts rested on the ground, eyes fixed on the crossing. The jeep's tires touched the first planks, wood creaking beneath the uneven weight. Time seemed to slow. The low moan of timber bending under pressure filled the air, punctuated only by the river's faint murmur. Soldiers held their breath, fingers tightening around rifles, bodies stiff with silent anticipation. The jeep inched forward, each wheel a cautious statement of faith. The bridge wavered slightly, ropes humming under tension but held firm. The vehicle's progress was slow, deliberate, as the driver balanced engine power with gentle steering. Dust from the riverbank drifted in the chill air, mixing with the faint smell of oil and smoke from the Jeep's exhaust. Halfway across, the Jeep's front wheels crossed a darker patch of planks, weathered and soaked from the river's spray. The wood groaned under the strain, but did not snap. The soldiers' eyes widened, the tension in the group palpable, yet hope flickered in glances exchanged. At last, the rear wheels rolled onto solid ground on the far bank. A collective exhale rippled through the ranks. The colonel's stern face softened just slightly, his posture relaxing. The jeep's engine died, and silence fell again, heavy but charged. Then relief broke through. A cheer rose, low and muffled, carried in the rough voices of men who had not spoken aloud for hours. It was a sound of exhaustion and triumph, of loyalty tested and met. Faces cracked into tired smiles as the soldiers clapped each other on the back, small gestures of shared victory. Janus allowed himself a brief nod, the weight of the moment sinking in. Around him, men wiped sweat and grime from their faces, the dawn light washing over them in muted shades of gray. The bridge stood, a fragile line of hope stretching across the river's dark water. The commanders began to organize the crossing of infantry, urgency tempered by caution. The soldiers moved with renewed purpose, boots striking the wooden planks in steady rhythm. The sound echoed faintly, a heartbeat beneath the cold morning sky. Janus watched the jeep disappear into the mist beyond the bridge's end. The Nazi tide, the sweat and cold endured, had carried more than a vehicle. They had carried the possibility of survival forward. The river flowed beneath, constant and indifferent, carrying away the past and whatever lay ahead. The bridge creaked under the steady rhythm of boots, striking its soaked wooden planks. Rain had fallen steadily through the night, leaving the timber slick and dark, each footfall marked by a faint splash against puddles forming between the boards. The river below churned quietly, swollen with recent storms, its surface mottled with drifting leaves and broken branches. Allied infantry surged forward, forming a moving line that stretched from the far bank back toward the muddy fields behind them. Some men hurried, heads down, shoulders hunched against the dull cold and persistent drizzle. Their faces were shadowed beneath rain-soaked helmets, eyes fixed on the opposite shore, where the village's crumbling church tower stood half-obscured by mist. Others paused atop the bridge, caught in a moment suspended between urgency and exhaustion. They stared down at the farmer's rope, now stretched taut and strained beneath the weight of a passing army. The coarse fibers, knotted and worn, bore witness to countless crossings. It hung low, a fragile lifeline thrown across the river's swift current, supporting equipment and supplies, as well as the unspoken courage of those who relied on it. Janus stood to one side, away from the main flow of soldiers. His uniform hung loosely on his frame, damp and stained with mud. Gray streaked his hair, which had once been dark and thick. His face was weathered, etched with lines deeper than before, and his shoulders sagged beneath the weight of months spent in the field. He did not move with the urgency of the others, instead watching the scene with a steady gaze, eyes darting between the river's surface and the low-hanging clouds above. Around him, the air was cool and heavy with the scent of wet earth and distant smoke. The river's steady murmur mingled with low murmurs of voices, the occasional clatter of gear, and the muffled calls of officers directing their men forward. The sky was a uniform gray, casting a diffuse light that flattened the landscape but still revealed the strain on every face. Wounded men were carried slowly across the bridge, their bodies supported by comrades whose strength was nearly spent. Faces pale and drawn, they bore the marks of battle, bloodstains on uniforms, bruises darkening beneath thin skin, eyes glazed but resolute. Each step was deliberate, careful, as if the bridge itself demanded respect for every life it bore. Janus's gaze lingered on one soldier in particular, a young man whose arm hung limp at his side, supported by a makeshift sling. His jaw was clenched, lips pressed in a line of determination despite the pain. As he passed, Janus caught the soldier's eye briefly. No words were exchanged, but in that silent exchange lay a deep understanding of sacrifice, of loyalty, and of the shared burden that tied them to this place and to each other. The farmer's rope sagged further under the load, swaying slightly with the river's current. Its rough texture was a stark contrast to the smooth, worn planks of the bridge. Here every element, the rope, the wood, the water, seemed to bear witness to the quiet heroism unfolding above. Beyond the bridge, the village lay battered yet unbowed. Smoke rose in thin spirals from chimneys and broken roofs. The streets were muddy trenches, scarred by shellfire and trampled by troops. Still, the church tower stood as a reminder of steadiness amid chaos, its silhouette etched faintly against the low clouds. Janus shifted his weight, the cold seeping through his damp uniform. His eyes swept over the men still crossing, young faces hardened by war, older faces marked by fatigue, all bound together by a common purpose. In their movements, he saw the unspoken promise of loyalty, not just to their mission, but to one another. The air was thick with the muted sounds of war, the distant rumble of artillery, the crackle of radio static, the soft murmur of men pushing onward. It was a symphony of persistence, underscored by the steady beat of boots on wood and earth. Janus's thoughts drifted briefly to the farmer who had fashioned the rope. He imagined the simple man, standing by the river's edge hours before, hands rough and steady, as he prepared the lifeline that now held so much weight. It was a small act of courage, a gesture of trust that had become a lifeline for many. As the last of the infantry crossed, Janus took a slow breath, the damp air filling his lungs. The wetness clung to his skin and clothes, but beneath it lay a quiet warmth, the steady pulse of survival, of comradeship, and of a loyalty forged in the harshest of circumstances. Behind him, the sounds of movement began to fade, as the soldiers disappeared into the village. The river flowed beneath the bridge, carrying with it the echoes of footsteps and whispered prayers. Janus remained still, the weight of years and memories pressing on him, yet his eyes held a faint, steady light. Above, the sky remained heavy and gray, as if holding its breath. The bridge, the rope, the men, all bore the marks of this moment in time. And in that weight, Janus found a quiet affirmation, that even amid ruin and struggle, loyalty endured. The heavy rumble of German artillery grew louder, a steady cadence that pressed into the air like a warning drum. Shells struck the ground with sharp, earth-shaking impacts, each explosion sending plumes of dust and debris into the gray morning sky. The engineers held their positions on the bridge, tense figures braced against the sudden intensification of fire. Suddenly, a shell landed alarmingly close, shattering wooden planks with a thunderous crack. Splinters and fragments flew through the smoky haze. The air thickened with the acrid smell of burning wood and gunpowder. Men ducked instinctively, faces tightening with grim determination beneath soot-streaked helmets. A second shell exploded nearer still. Flames caught hold on the bridge's central span, licking hungrily at the worn ropes and wooden beams. Black smoke curled upward, blotting out patches of the pale sky, its bitter taste filling the lungs of those nearby. Janus, standing just yards away, inhaled deeply, the sting in his eyes sharp as the smoke burned past his goggles. Without a word, Janus and the engineers surged forward. Their leather coats, damp from earlier rain and sweat, were pressed against the flames in desperate attempts to smother the growing fire. The coarse fabric absorbed the heat and soot, turning blackened where it met the fire's edge. Hands moved with practiced urgency, beating down the flickering flames as the acrid smoke clawed at their throats. The men formed a tight line along the span, bending low to reach the burning ropes. They tore sections free, wrapping wet rags around the fibers, twisting frantic knots to stop the blaze from spreading further. The ropes hissed and steamed where water met heat, but stubborn flames fought to maintain their hold. Boots splashed through shallow puddles formed from the river's spray, and their own efforts to douse the fire. The chill water seeped into their leather, cold against the skin. Faces glistened with sweat and soot, eyes stinging, mouths dry from the heat and smoke they breathed. Every breath was a struggle, a reminder of the fragile line between life and death on this battered bridge. Silence enveloped the group, broken only by the crackle of fire and distant artillery. No words passed between them, only silent nods of resolve and shared understanding. Fear was present, a shadow at the edges of their minds, yet it was held tightly beneath layers of duty and loyalty. Each man knew the importance of this moment. The bridge was more than wood and rope. It was their lifeline, the last link to safety and resistance. Janus's hands moved steadily, tying off the burning ropes with soaked cloths. His knuckles white against the rough fibers, he worked with the quiet focus of a man who understands that hesitation could mean collapse. Around him, the engineers mirrored his effort, their movements precise despite the chaos. Smoke thickened, curling over the bridge in dark waves that blurred the edges of the scene. The sun, faint and veiled behind clouds, cast a pale light that flickered with the flames' restless dance. The smell of burning rope mixed with wet leather and earth, a harsh scent that marked this moment in memory. Minutes passed like hours. The fire fought for dominance, but the engineers' relentless effort began to gain ground. The flames shrank, sputtering against the dampened ropes and soaked wood. Slowly, the worst of the blaze was contained, smoldering and subdued beneath layers of wet fabric and human will. Janus stepped back, shoulders heavy but unbowed. His eyes scanned the bridge, noting the damaged sections, the scorched wood, the ropes still tense under strain. The structure groaned softly under the weight and stress, but held firm. The bridge had endured. Just barely. Around him, the men exhaled quietly, their breath shallow but steady. No cheers, no celebration, only a shared, silent acknowledgement of survival. The fire was out, but the danger remained. The distant shelling continued, a grim reminder that their task was far from over. Janus wiped sweat and soot from his brow with a gloved hand, the gesture small but telling. It was a moment of quiet resolve, a pause before the next challenge. The bridge stood still, battered but unbroken, a fragile symbol of their loyalty and perseverance amid the relentless storm of war. The final column of Allied soldiers moved steadily across the makeshift bridge, their boots stirring dust and debris under the gray sky. The far bank, begrimed and scorched, lay behind a thin line of sentries who called out cautious greetings. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and gunpowder, mingling as if the land itself breathed relief. Officers gathered near the river's edge, their faces drawn and streaked with grime. Some exchanged firm handshakes, others embraced tightly as if to anchor themselves to visible proof of survival. A few wept openly, heads bowed while their uniforms clung damply to their shoulders. The sound of whispered thanks and the rustling of gear filled the space between heavy, exhausted breaths. Janus sat apart on a battered wooden crate, his shoulders stooped against the chill wind that swept over the water. His hands, raw and reddened, rubbed slowly along the rope burns that traced across his palms. The coarse fibers bit into his skin, a dull ache that grounded him as much as the river's murmur. He looked down at the rope dangling loosely from the bridge's side, frayed at the edges, splintered in places, yet holding firm against the current. Nearby, a young sapper approached quietly, his face still boyish despite the grime and fatigue. The man knelt beside Janus, voice low and steady. "Thank you," he said, fingers briefly touching the worn rope. "Without this, none of us would have made it." Janus nodded without looking up, the weight of the moment settling deep in his chest. The bridge itself, a patchwork of timber and wire hastily assembled from what the men called a ridiculous hack, bore the marks of relentless use. Planks were scarred, nails protruded at odd angles, and every inch was stained with mud and sweat. Yet it had carried thousands, soldiers, equipment, hope, across a treacherous river that for days had stood as a barrier between life and death. Rain began to fall in quiet sheets, blurring the edges of the river and softening the hard lines of the battered defenses. The men moved to shelter, voices lowered, eyes catching on the fragile structure that now felt more like a monument than a mere crossing. The bridge pushed the front line forward, a thin thread of wood and rope stretching into the unknown. Janus's gaze lifted to the horizon, mist curling over distant hills. The bridge was more than a crossing. It was a testament to loyalty, the loyalty of men to each other, to the cause, to survival. He could still hear the rhythm of boots, the sharp commands, the creak of wood under weight. Those sounds had carried them through the darkest hours. Around him, the landscape bore its own scars. Shattered trees leaned like sentinels, their branches stripped bare. The ground was churned and pockmarked, each crater holding the memory of explosions and desperate struggle. Yet here at this edge, the fighting paused. For a moment, the men simply existed, breathing air thick with damp and anticipation. Officers conferred quietly, maps unfolded under flickering lantern light. Orders were exchanged, but Janos remained seated, the rope burns a hum beneath his fingers. He reflected on the countless hands that had grasped this rope in the chaos, the silent agreements made in passing, the steady faith that it would hold. The young sapper remained near, watching Janos with a glance that spoke of respect without words. Both men understood the bridge was fragile, yet unbroken. It was a line drawn against the advancing enemy, a fragile lifeline between retreat and advance. With every crossing, it bound the men tighter in shared purpose. The rain eased, leaving a cold quiet that settled over the river. Janos stood slowly, body stiff but steady. He gave one last look to the rope and the bridge, feeling the rough texture beneath his fingers. The bridge had survived. The men had survived. As the last trucks rumbled across, kicking up mud and dust, a faint sun pierced the clouds. Light caught the wet wood, glinting like a promise in the gray day. The front line had moved forward, carried on this improbable, fragile construction. Janos turned away. The rope burns a reminder of loyalty tested and honored. The bridge would remain, a silent witness to sacrifice and endurance. Long after voices were stilled and boots fell silent, it would stand, frayed, worn, but unbroken. The sun sank low, casting long shadows over the battered rope bridge. Its frayed strands swayed stiffly in the cold wind that swept through the valley. The wooden planks, worn and creaking, bore silent witness to the countless footsteps that had crossed under the weight of war. On the far side, the Allies pressed forward, their uniforms dust-covered and faces grim but resolute. Their momentum now steady, fueled by the passage made possible that night. Among the moving crowd, Janos slipped quietly into the throng, a farmer once, now marked by the struggle. His hands, rough and scarred, clutched no tools. The rope he had tied and retied lay, abandoned near the bridge, a humble thread in the vast machinery of battle. A thin mist began to rise, mingling with the fading light, blurring edges between earth and sky. Soon, steel and concrete would replace this fragile crossing, turning it into a permanent artery for war's machinery. Yet for that crucial night, ordinary hands, calloused and untrained, had held fast. Desperate hope had woven strength between frayed fibers. The war itself roared on beyond the hills, relentless and unyielding. Battles would come and go, strategies would change, and countless lives would be swept away in the tides of conflict. But this moment, when a patched rope stood firm against doubt and fire, endured quietly in the memory of those who crossed. It was a small story, easily lost amid sweeping plans and thunderous campaigns. Yet it carries a simple truth. When everything threatens to break, sometimes only the most human resolve, loyalty, ingenuity, and steadfast hands can hold the line. This legacy, etched in rope and bone, lives on far beyond the battlefield's roar.